welcome to the Taco Cast. I'm Crystal.
I'm Will.
And you're our audience. Thank you for joining us today. Today in the Taco Cast, I'm going to monopolize your time by complaining about credit scores.
Ooh.
Doesn't that sound like a
Something
blast?
new. She's going to complain about something.
Right? Who ever saw that happening? So.
Credit scores.
Credit scores.
The game is rigged against you.
100% rigged against you. So as most of you know, when Bill and I first started out,
we were broke.
So broke. And our
very broke.
Credit scores were negligible. Bill here would give me, somebody would call and I'd be like, yeah, my social security number's blah, 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 blah. He's like, why are you giving it out of the phone? It's like, what are they going to do? Take a credit card out in my name? Psst. And time and...
I have no idea with the references, but go ahead.
Time, I'm a little protective of my credit score now. We'll just put it that way. And so whenever something happens to it, I am immediately on the phone and I am calling people and I'm wondering, what's going on? What are you doing? Why is this happening? Stop now. Recently, well, not so recently, but a couple years back, whatever, we paid off all of our credit cards. There's still a credit card that we maintain that we use to pay our household bills with, which we then, pay off because, you get points for it. It's like we're already paying bills. Why not, right? Get points. So, most of our other credit cards are paid off. Well, one of them closed my account. So, I called, I'm like, what's going on? Why did you close my account? So they send me this copy of this letter that I had received 2 months prior, which said, due to your good payment history, we're going to help you out during COVID. I was like, well, my account's paid off. I don't need no help. So I had never responded to it because I did not need this service that they were offering. And it was basically like a call us if you need help. And I was like, well, I don't, so I'm going to not call. So they send me a copy of this letter. And so I messaged them back, and I'm like, all right, so I was supposed to call you and I didn't, and therefore you closed my account. What's that about? And then they tell me to call this 1-800 number, so I call this 1-800 number. The 1-800 number, I get a pre-recorded message that says your account has been closed, and then it disconnects. Now I'm livid because if a credit account is closed, that lowers your amount of available credit, and it lowers your credit score. So I am angry. This card is paid off. It should be, whatever. So I messaged them back. I get a copy of that same letter, due to your great payment history. And I'm like, I'm not calling your 1-800 number. I want to talk to somebody. And clearly your 1-800 number is shit. They send me another 1-800 number to call. I call it, I get the same pre-recorded message, and I get disconnected again. So, after leaving several scathing reviews on every credit rating agency that I could find, I finally get a message back from them, and it was, I hadn't used my credit card in over a year, and so they canceled it. Yeah. So, if you use your credit responsibly, you will be penalized. The game is to keep you in debt. And for those who aren't interested in staying in debt,
like
you
us.
lose. Yes. So I did a little bit of looking into it, and it turns out that the United States is one of only a handful of countries that uses credit scores like
Really?
our country does.
What other countries do?
The UK is one. Germany has a system that, from what I understand, is fairly sophisticated and similar to ours. But they also use different things to rank it. According to, what was it? The website I was looking at.
She has no reference.
I have references.
Oh,
Investopedia.
Okay.
I was reading this article on Investopedia. And according to them, in the UK, a voting record, regardless of which way you voted, is a positive mark on your credit score. They consider people who vote to be credit-worthy. So
important? People who vote are important?
Yes.
But do other countries screw their citizens with credit like we do here?
Some do, some don't, but the American credit system seems to be...
Can you get denied for a job in other countries based on your credit?
Not that I found. However, in the United States, you can be denied for a job because you have bad credit.
What about housing?
You can be denied housing for bad credit.
Yeah, in other countries?
Nope.
Oh, only here.
Only here.
Oh, and what lovely people decided that your credit is an end all be all of everything.
Well, that would be the people who are marketing your credit score.
Oh,
Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax.
the big three, huh?
They have a product. So a while back, what was it, 1989, according to credit.com, is when the FICO score came out, which was supposed to be an answer to individualized credit, and it was supposed to make credit fair. Up until roughly the 50s, I think it was, there wasn't even a credit score. Credit was based solely on you went to the bank and you were like, hey, give us some money. And if the banker liked you, you would get some money. And that was roundly not fair for quite a number of demographics. Women, people of color, your neighbor who you didn't like how they trimmed their grass, a banker could deny you credit for anything. So it really wasn't a system that worked for anybody who wasn't a popular white dude.
Does credit work for people now?
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
But people tried to fix it, and they failed. It's a good idea, but in my opinion, the failure came because a credit score became a product.
Okay.
And once something becomes a product, it becomes that much easier for it to be unfair. They're going to sell their credit score now because the credit score is the product, and they're going to sell it to everything. Currently, in the United States, like Bill was saying, you can be denied housing for having bad credit. You can be denied jobs for having bad credit. Your insurance rates can go up for having bad credit. It's a racket, is what it is, and it's a way that companies use to get more money out of people. Years back, Elizabeth was in grade school. I don't remember how old she was, but I know she was in grade school. I'd had a conversation with the insurance commissioner of our state regarding the fact that auto insurance had recently begun to increase your bill based on your credit score. And her and I had this conversation, and she said that she knew it was shit, but currently there wasn't anything that she could do about it.
Well, isn't that lovely? What's she the insurance commissioner for?
Well, the insurance commissioner oversees a lot of stuff. Typically, when I had contacted the insurance commissioner's office, it was in my duties working for a small, I used to work for a small independent physician. And he was very involved in his patients' lives. And that sounds bad. He was very involved in their health lives. It wasn't like he would just show up and be like, what are we having for dinner, Mabel? It wasn't like, like that. But they would come to him, and if they had been denied insurance or something like that, rather than most healthcare providers even back then, he would make an appointment with them to come to his office. He would talk to them personally. He would write letters to the insurance company, and we, the office staff, would help him work with patients, and sometimes we would elevate these concerns to the insurance commissioner of our state to help patients get the health care that they deserve and to get their insurance companies to play ball. And typically, from a healthcare standpoint, once you get the healthcare commissioner, the insurance commissioner involved, insurance companies, they tend to toe the line then, once they realize that you're serious and you have elevated this to the insurance commissioner.
So credit.
So, yeah, there's only like 15 companies that actually for the love of Pete, 15 countries that use credit scores. A lot of countries still do the individual assessment model. You go into your bank, you say, hey, I want to buy the thing, and the bank goes, how much money do you need for the thing? Do you pay your bills? And then they're going to look at stuff like your banking information. Do you have automatic withdrawals coming out of your bank? Do they come out at the same time? And do they come out and you always have money in there to pay them? They're going to assess you individually They're not going to be purchasing a credit product. And some countries do a combination thing. Equifax, I think it was. Was it Equifax? They've managed to branch out into a couple of other countries. But what a lot of countries are doing that purchase their product is it's like an addendum, or they're still doing the individual assessment, and then also whatever Equifax has to say. But again, all those countries, there's no international credit score yet. And part of that is because a lot of other countries are assessing credit differently. Like I said, in the UK, if you vote, that's a good thing that shows up on your credit. Some countries, uh, they'll look at, do you pay your power bill all the time? Because they figure, well, keeping your lights on, that's super important. Do you keep your lights on? Okay, well then, you take care of your business. And some countries don't give a crap.
Hmm. So we know that the system here that they use in America is broken.
Mm-hmm.
It's rigged against you.
100%.
I mean,
It's
you
rigged
can't
to
you
keep
can't
you
you
in
can't
debt.
get credit unless you have credit
Right?
to start off with. And so, and then on top of that, of all that, you need credit to get credit.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you establish credit if you can't get credit?
Establishing credit is hard, especially for new people. My daughter is very responsible with her money. She saves up her money.
Her daughter.
Don't worry, when she acts up, she's Bill's daughter. Um, she she's very responsible with her money. Uh, she's getting ready to go on a trip to Japan.
Yeah.
Then she saved her money to afford this. She's been hunting constantly for deals on transportation. She's purchased her rail tickets. She's purchased her transportation in advance. She's purchased her hotel in advance. And she has put aside and saved this money to take this trip to Japan, literally $100 at a time for the last couple of years. She doesn't have any credit. The kid is amazing with her money. She's very good with it, but she can't get credit for something. She wanted to purchase a computer recently on credit, and she couldn't get it. So what Will and I wound up doing is we talked about it, and we had been setting aside money for a vacation. We're like, okay, so we will pay for your computer out of our vacation fund, and you can.
The Ireland fund got depleted pretty quickly.
It did. The Ireland fund got depleted really quickly, but we're like, you can pay us back what you would have paid to the credit company. You can pay us, and we'll just put it back in the Ireland fund. So, but our kid's a good credit risk, and it's not like we don't know where she lives.
That's true.
Yeah, she's literally right upstairs. We could just go
Yeah.
take the money from her. Just full on mafia style shakedown.
break her wrists. But,
Wow, that was dark.
well, I was just saying, you gotta, send a message. Don't know who. But
Wouldn't that be to us?
Oh yeah.
That we, because
Yeah, your parents suck. Crack. Well, I know when it comes to issues, things that pop up on credit reports that can be erroneously bad against you, and they can be also good at the same time. Now, I had an issue with the my FICO score where something showed up on my credit report for something that I never purchased, I never took out the loan for. It was paid off in good faith, and so it was a good positive mark on my credit score for a lot of years until the individual refinanced it, took out another loan against that collateral, and then my credit score dropped massively because it showed that I used 90% of my available credit. And I'm like, but I never owned a shrimp boat. I've never been to Louisiana to own a boat. And I certainly the hell didn't, buy it and then keep it there. But they're like, no, this is you. And they actually sent me a copy of the actual loan, and it had all my information handwritten out on it, and except my social security number, date of birth, everything was on there. It was me, except for the address of the person. who actually took out the where the actual loan was. Somebody had gotten hold of my credit, my social security information, my personal information, and bought a boat with it, and it was good until they decided to finance it and take out a loan on it. I mean, and then I was like, and trying to dispute that from the credit, they're like, well, we're sorry. You can put a little note in there. So every time somebody looks at your credit report, they'll say that, well, here's a little note that you've added that says that you didn't take out this loan.
No one looks at those notes.
They don't look at them.
Not a
and
single
and
person.
in the meantime, they're not going to go past the point of like looking at the number only. They're like, well, this individual's a credit risk because he's used 90% of his available credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, trying to dispute that. It went around and around and around for 2 years until I finally got it removed from my credit report. And they're like, the only reason why they removed it was because he paid off the second loan that he had taken out on that item. That's the only reason why they did it. The only reason why they removed it then.
It's a form of pressure. We had a roommate at one point in time who had was it Power Bill in their name before they had moved in with us. I want to say it was a power bill because it was the city that I was calling. Anyways, this person had a power bill in their name before they came to stay with us for a little while. They only stayed with us for 3 months total. And then eventually their old power bill wound up on my credit report. And when I called the city to find out what was going on, I said I'd never lived there. Why did I have a power bill for there? Because so and so had lived at our house. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not their mom, and I'm certainly not their wife. So why am I responsible for their stuff? And it's literally a form of pressure. They are hoping that you will pay the debt. Now, eventually that got taken off, not because of me, because while I do have amazing powers of bitchiness,
You do.
I do. It's a gift.
She does. Don't ever question them.
No, but yeah, it's a form of intimidation. The credit company that I'm currently in the middle of a dispute with, I found recently that they're involved in several class action lawsuits, and one of them was for identity theft. A woman had her identity stolen and credit taken out in her name. Clearly it's not her, so she contacts these agencies and says, you have to remove me. This person is not me. I'm a victim of identity theft. This particular bank tried to force her into arbitration.
Huh.
Because according to them, that was the terms of service that she signed.
We could do an entire series on binding arbitration that it's snuck into the fine print on so many different things. If you buy this item and it kills you, you cannot sue the company because you gave up your right to sue because of you have to go to binding arbitration. They pick the judge, they pick the attorneys, and you're screwed.
Yeah. So this company tried to force this woman into arbitration because according to her that was in the rules that she signed, and she's like, well, bitch, it wasn't me, so no, I'm not going to arbitration. And they fought her on it until she sued. And apparently they have done this to enough victims of identity theft that it has become a class action lawsuit against them. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
But can you imagine, you get this, I'm trying to picture the person on the other end of that phone call. They like, hi, welcome to shit-ass bank. And they're like, yeah, somebody stole my identity. Ooh, yeah, but you gotta go to arbitration because you signed this. I didn't sign it. What part of identity theft was hard for you? Someone signed it in your name, so you gotta abide by the rules that you didn't agree to. Sorry, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, binding arbitration is really not something that it's made to protect the company, so 100%. You can't sue.
Yeah, one of the other things that they've been sued for is unethical collection practices. Now, granted, I have the opposite issue. I paid my bill off, and then they screwed me, but, apparently, with you're behind on your bill for your credit company, which has happened to a lot of people because of COVID. There's a lot of people who are unable to make their payments, which was another thing that irritated me. On that letter they sent me, because of your good payment history, we're going to help you out during COVID. Shouldn't you help all of your customers during COVID? Why, if nobody is working, why would you continue to charge them? That's that's just you wanting to make more money off of other people's misfortune, which is just predatory and leechy. And how do you even look at yourselves in the morning? Anyways, apparently the bank itself, from what I understand, I didn't read too much into the complaint, but from what I understand, it was the bank themselves. They would find friends and relatives of the people who were behind on their payments by going through their social media accounts and whatnot, and then they would call those friends and relatives, pretending that they had an emergency, and could you go find so and so?
Oh, that's freaking creepy.
Isn't
And
that creepy?
is that even legal?
Well, from what I understand, it's a bit of a legal gray area because there's nothing that specifically prohibits them from going through your public social media. Basically, if your stuff is public, the idea is anybody can go through it.
But they can use social media to call your friends and family to pressure you.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, at the same time, well, we both saw a drastic cut in our credit lines during this COVID thing.
Yep.
They just up and like, well, you don't owe us anything right now, and you've been a great credit risk for us. By the way, we're going to cut your credit limit in half because that's what we want to do, and we
Yeah.
can do that anytime we want.
And
I
again,
love that.
it's a ding on your credit score.
And they're like, and then somebody else looks at your credit report. And they're like, well, wait a minute. Last week, this guy had a $10,000 credit limit on this card. Now he's got a $5,000 credit limit. Something must be wrong with this individual. They're a credit risk. We should probably look at why they, their credit. Oh, the company, retroactively cut their credit limit. Thank you. All right, now we know.
It's a cascade. There will be a cascade effect.
Yeah. It's like, what did we do wrong? We did everything we're supposed to do. We paid our bills. We pay our credit cards. And yet, we're getting screwed because the company decided that they can. And we're not talking about cards with the small companies, major national companies. Some of the largest companies out there in the credit game have done this to us.
And
if they're doing it to us, they're doing it to you.
Yes. Yeah, they're doing it to a number of people. And one would think that the threat of a class action lawsuit would be enough to stop predatory behavior.
Nah.
Because these lawsuits, they're losing millions of dollars in lawsuit payouts, and yet they continue the predatory behavior because the amount of money that they can make is vastly outstripping the amount of money that they'll be penalized. And they make a financial decision. If we do X, eventually somebody will sue us. It will probably be in X number of years, and we will have to pay out about this amount of money. But in the meantime, we will reap this amount of profit. And they will make a calculation. What are our expected gains versus what will we lose in the lawsuit? And they will bank on the gains versus the lawsuit.
Okay, before we end this, let's talk about solutions. What can somebody do if they find themselves the victim of a predatory loan or a predatory credit?
Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can help. And I'm going to go first and foremost, I'm going to suggest that before you take credit, check with the Better Business Bureau. I didn't, and this particular card is not accredited. You can still leave a review. Trust me, I did. But I would go with an accredited business. And you might think that they're going to be accredited because in the case of this particular card, they're associated with a large name brand that is popular across the country and even internationally. And so you would assume if they're associated with a large brand like that, that they would. Check because they're not. I learned the hard way. Always check with the Better Business Bureau, the BBB, before you take out your credit. But if you find that you have been a victim of predatory lending or something like that has happened, your first recourse is to contact the company. Lots of times there are legitimate errors, and they will fix them. We did have one credit card that was also paid off that we had stashed aside as an emergency card in case something happens and we have to, this is Like literally, we didn't even take it with us. It was just in my desk. This is our emergency card. And there was an issue with the emergency card. We had gotten a fee tacked onto it. I contacted them. We had everything resolved. So your first recourse should be contact the company. If it's a legitimate error, a good company is going to work with you to get that fixed. If that doesn't work, you may be forced into arbitration. If you have signed that deal, you're going to you are going to have to go to arbitration, but that doesn't mean you have to accept the arbiter's terms. You can continue to escalate, and that's what they're not going to tell you. You can continue to escalate, and you can go to a lawyer if you find that you are being taken advantage of. The other thing that you can do, there are credit agencies online that you can find that will assist you. You can also locate communities of people that have had similar things happen. We can put some links in places that you can go. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes years.
Wow. When should they call an attorney?
I'm gonna leave that to calmer minds, because if you leave it up to me, I'd be like, right the fuck now, you get an attorney on the phone the minute those people tell you no, and you just like, oh. But that's not necessarily the way that you want to handle things. But also, don't wait too long. On a calm point of view, honestly, I give 3 months. That seems like a long time, but 3 months is more than enough for everything to be resolved. And after that, contact a lawyer. And document.
Are there any nonprofits out there that are helping fight predatory loans and disputes and stuff like that?
There are several, and they're going to vary by state. So whichever state or country that you live in, or state or region you live in, if you live outside the U.S., check with your local state, because there's a lot of local ones that are individual.
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up her rant for today. Anything in closing?
Yeah, in closing, my biggest piece of advice is to check on the company before you take out your credit card. I made the assumption that because they were associated with several large brands that were well known and well respected, that the company that they opted to use for their credit would be the same, and I was sorely disappointed.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today.